Already pre-opened the box, and I've looked and see what we got. This is the can. I went ahead and got the upgrade for the bigger can and the billet style, which you can fully service, so you can take it apart. So this is all the stuff's going to come in the box. This is the drain tube, which I think we're going to do a different location on this one. So I'm not sure that we're going to use the actual mounting brackets, but we might make something up. This is the fresh air breather tube, which goes on the oil cap, and it's fully aluminum also. We got our box of supplies, which is the check valves, the T's and fittings, along with a tap and a little bit of hardware, because we're going to have to tap the intake manifold on this one. Also got our block off for the back of the valve cover, and a plug, a couple plugs. I don't think we're going to use the T either. This is the aluminum mounting bracket. Of course, they give you the OE style fittings, which is really nice. There's 3 of them, 2 straights and 1 90. And they give you your 1/2 inch oil breather hose. And I went ahead and bought an extra 10 foot just in case, because I am going to, like I said, I'm going to mount this one at a different spot. And the 2 brackets. So these 2 brackets would be if you're going to mount it in their location, I suppose. So this is, again, this is a 2.0 Ford Ecoboost, and I'm doing it on an Escape, which is a little bit harder than the Focus and the Fusion, and similar to the Edge, because we're going to have to remove the cowling section of the Escape to get to the back of the turbo inlet hose, and we're going to go through all that. Alright, so we're going to remove the cowl section on this Escape. We've got several little clips here on the front of the cowling. There's also 2 bolts here and here, and you got to pull the wiper blades. So let's go ahead and get started. Now we can get to everything. Okay, as you can see here, this is the back of that valve cover, and then it goes to the turbo inlet right there. It's a good close-up shot of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this fitting off, and this is going to be either the A or C side of our can, because the B, the middle of the can, actually goes to the PCV valve, and that's our dirty side. And it doesn't matter if we go to the A or C side, because they're both for vacuum. Okay, so here's a better shot of that tube. You see the quick connect here? We're going to block that off, and that's our turbo inlet, so that's going to be part of our vacuum there for our catch can. So we're going to split off of that and then go to our catch can side, and this one will be blocked off. Okay, so we're going to have to do a couple improvisions here. If you look, this is not the style that they send you with the catch can. This is the newer style, which is just a squeeze and not the quick clip like these. Like these guys, right? So these just got the one tab and the hookup, and this has got the squeeze. So we're gonna have to use the existing hose, and we're gonna have to adapt into it and put our hose into it, because this is a bigger fitting as well, and we got a little bit of that oil residue on the tube. Alright, so this car only had 24,000 miles, so we're going to see what these intake looks like. And then this side, this one goes into here, and we're just going to put the block off. Pull this out of the hose, we're just going to put the block off here, so that way we can retain that OE style fitting. Alright. Okay, I think I found a solution. So we're going to adapt our check valve. You see our check valve? Alright, if you look at the arrow, there's an arrow pointing to it. That goes away from the catch can. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this arrow going toward that turbo inlet. And then we'll adapt it that way. So that way we don't have to get another adapter. So that's cool. And I think I'll put a clamp on that. Alright. Oh, let me put our block off on this piece here. Block off. Okay, so here's our new piece. Got our squeeze clamp on it, and then we'll reinstall it. Okay, in order to mount the can, we're going to have to drill a hole using this bracket stuff that we've got. And what I did is I found a hole on the back side, back here by the firewall, and it looks like it appeared to be a brake line. So what I did is I took a 3/8 drill and drilled that out in my 90-degree attachment. And then I'm going to put a 1/4-20 nut cert in there, the riv nut, and I'll show you that when I do that. I had to use my 90-degree here to get back down in there. Alright, so now we're going to pull the intake off. I've already got the evap hose here off and a bunch of these 10mm little bolts. far as the throttle body, it's got a little bit, but not much. For 24,000 miles, that's not too bad. We're going to take a look at these valves. Okay, as you can see, we pulled the front cover off, which is supposed to be your PCV system. It replaces it. This thing has got a baffle in it, and it actually goes on the block itself. And the oil comes in through here, and it actually sucks it up through here and puts it back down into the intake. It's hard to believe that sucker pulls that much vacuum to where it's causing a problem. These valves are pretty bad. What I'm going to do, I think for this oil catch can, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut these off, and I'm going to use the original fittings instead of tapping the manifold. So that way, if we ever got to go back or anything like that, we can always go back to our original OE look. So I'm going to show you a shot of the block now to where this plate actually comes off of, okay? Okay, here's the plate I was talking about. I can't really get the camera in here to show you guys, but let me see, maybe. Alright, so the plate's here, and that is the block itself underneath it. See the block? And then you come up, and these are the valves. So I'm going to show you what we're working with here. See if I can get a good shot down in there. Alright, that's number 1 cylinder. Number 1 still. This is number 2. Number 2. And that's pretty bad down in there, you know. Right there. You can barely see that thing in the camera. There we go. Number 3, maybe. Yeah, there we go. That's a good shot. These things are just nasty, man. Why would Ford do this? Beyond me. Alright, number 4. See that carbon buildup? Well, at least it's not just Ford, you know. You got Volkswagen and stuff doing this now too, with the direct injection. Alright, there's a good shot of the block lit up. That's good. Alright. Okay, being these are 3/8 fittings, I went ahead and put a squeeze clamp on it. I used a factory fitting for it, and I bought some reducers this morning. The Dayco's 80660s, and that's a 1/2 inch to 3/8 reducer. So I got 2 of these, so that way the PCV and the actual factory clamp that goes on the manifold. So I got 2 of those as well. Okay, so this is the route I'm going to take for mounting the can. I got, these are 1-inch Allen buttons, I believe. Yep, 1 inch. Okay, so these are 1 inch. 2 of those, they're going to go to these spots here and to the can here. I also got these 1/2 inch spacers. So it's 1/4 will go through, and they're about 1/2 inch long, 1/2 inch OD, which doesn't make any difference because they're going to go here. I got my fender washer, 1/4 nylon locker, and this is a 1/4 inch coupling for pipe. And all I did was drill out a 1/2 inch, so this makes a spacer for my stud that I made. And then how I made the stud is I bought a 3-inch bolt, stainless steel. I cut it off, as you can see here, and ground it, and then I ground the tip so that way the nut's going to sit on there a lot easier. So when we drop it in, we go to drop this thing in, that nut will go right on top of it. So this is what our stack up's going to look like. We got that. This guy is going to go on top of here. And of course the fender washer and our nylon locker. And that's going to go in where we put the nut cert. And we drilled the hole. Let me show you that. Right there. So that's the brake line, and that's the nylon locker. That's the one we drilled the 3/8 hole and put the, I guess they call them rib nuts or nut inserts. I'm not quite sure. And that's a 1/4 and that's permanently in the vehicle and it will not move. And I'm going to put Loctite on the stud so that way the stud won't come off, and I'm just going to leave the 2 jam nuts on it that we have. That way it's there, it's not going to bother anything. The spacer will clear it, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so here's our stud. We put Loctite on it, and like I said, I'm just going to leave those jam nuts on it. Put the spacer on it next, and I just wanted to show you that. And what we have is I've put, these are the hoses that are coming off the intake and the dirty side, which is that baffle. And then these are the adapters that I put in. Alright, so those are the adapters. That's my 3/8 to 1/2 inch line adapter. And then there's the check valve. And what I did is I ran the hoses underneath the washer bottle there. And they're going to come out right here off the end. And those are the 1/2 inch lines. And if you can see this side, on the intake manifold, those were the 2 3/8 lines come out of. And these plastic reducers work perfect because they got a place where I can zip tie them to that washer bottle hose. So those are those lines. And what else I forgot to mention was we're going to do something different on this can. There is a 1/4 inch drain valve that comes on the bottom of this can. So what we're doing is we're going to make a remote location. I'm going to show you the bracketry underneath the car for this. I'll show you later on. Okay, so here's the can, and there's my bracketry there. There's the spacers installed. The 1-inch Allen buttons, they're stainless. And it's all the way at the bottom of that bracket. And if you come over to the vehicle, now there is a spacer. The spacer holds it off that brake line. That's why that spacer's there. Let's see if I can get a good zoom in on it. Yeah, there we go. See, that spacer just clears. So that spacer clears that brake line. So when we go to mount the can, it's not going to interfere with any of that. Okay, so I've been having a little bit of camera troubles. So I've been cutting and coming back, cutting and coming back. Not a big deal. So what we did is when we took the 1/4 turn ball valve off, which is 1/4 inch pipe, we had to upgrade from the plastic hose that they send you to the fuel hose. So we got 3/8 fuel hose. It's the same hose I use for the factory fittings on the baffle or PCV, however you want to look at it, and the intake manifold. So I cut that OEM plastic off and I put this on, and then this will actually go underneath the vehicle and it will be a remote with a bracket. So that's our 1/4 valve. It actually came off the can, and this is just 1/4 inch stainless pipe with a brass nipple on it. And the way we're going to attach it to the bracket is it's a female swivel barb is what it is, and I'm just going to use the nut off of it to attach to our bracket. It'll go in between here, so that way it pinches it tight, so it'll hold everything in place. Alright, can's in, and as you can see, it's a real pain to get back there to get that nut on. So what I did, that's why I put that stud in there, because I'm not trying to fight anything. I guess I could have cut the bracket and it would have been a little easier to get to, but you can imagine trying to put a bolt, line that spacer up and all that. That would kind of suck. But anyway, this is how much clearance we got between the can and that turbo inlet. Maybe we can see that. Maybe. There we go. It's pretty good. So we'll find out when we start driving it if we got enough clearance. I don't know if that's a good shot or not, but it's got a good 1/4 inch. So we'll find out if it hits. I'm sure we'll hear it. And then there's the spacers off, and then it's not hitting the brake line or anything. So we'll go to the next spot and see what. That's good. That's a pretty good shot there. And it almost looks like it's touching, but it's not. Alright, but I got plenty of room to put my hoses and make sure they're not kinked or anything. So next shot I'll show you all that stuff installed and all the hoses cut and ready to rock and roll. Alright, so I pulled the bottle up so that way I can show you how I ran my hoses. So I ran them underneath the bottle, and they're going to go back into the can here. Alright, so this is the rear hose set up here. You're probably not going to get to see it once it's in the vehicle, so I figure I'd go ahead and take a quick shot of it. And that's where it goes on the can. It feeds back up into the turbo inlet. Alright, so we got the bottle back in place, and the hoses are up underneath where you can't see them. And here's our can with the hoses coming out behind the bottle, if you can see that. And that one goes back to the turbo inlet. The middle goes to my PCV or that baffle, whichever way you want to call it. And that far back one there goes to the clean side of the manifold. Alright, and they go right up underneath the bottle. Good, pretty clean install. Alright, now we're going to get underneath and start doing the bracketry for the remote drain. Alright, let me show you this bracket I made. This is going to be for our remote drain. So all it is just a piece of angle aluminum here. I had extra laying around. 3/8 hole here. And just so happens I had a 15 millimeter, or you can use like 5/8 right there. So that way your drain can go into it. And it's got a little bit of play. And then of course the nut, which is going to tighten up on the bottom. I'll show you once we get underneath the car. And of course you had to get a longer bolt for the location that we're going to put this. Alright, so I'll show you that. Alright, so here's our bracket under the car. Get a little closer. Alright, so it's mounted to this cross beam here. All I did was get a longer bolt to make up the space. There's our drain valve. That's the oil pan, and there's our drain plug for the oil. So let me get a little bit further back so I can show you how we're routed. Alright, so there's our piping. That's our turbo piping there. And what I did is I got a zip tie and zipped it in there. And it's right past the CV. It looks like it's close here, but it's really not. I got plenty of room. And of course I got enough slack up at the top where the can is to if there's any flex. If there's any flex in the can at all, I should have plenty of room to move. There's the can right there. So I got plenty of room there. That's a good shot of it and the spacing. So this way you can drain the oil. You can drain the catch can here and drain the oil at the same time. There's the oil, and there's the drain for the catch can. And we had to upgrade the hose because it's going to be holding oil and stuff, so can't use that clear stuff. Alright, so we'll do an update on it. Alright, here it is, fully put back together and running. Alright, for that fitting right there, that's a 90 degree. And I drilled a half-inch hole in that hose, and it's got a 90 degree fitting on it. That's the one I used to go back to the oil here. Here's our hoses that we put in. They're right here underneath the engine cover. You can barely see them. And of course you can't see the can because the cowling and stuff's all back on. But it's back in that corner there, which I can't even get to anymore. Yeah. You can barely see it, and it's got plenty of room in here to put it in. Once you get that cowling and stuff off, that's great. So all I gotta do now is do the belly pan and do an update on draining that catch can and intervals. So I'll post those as we go, alright?